Hey, what is going on, everybody? So today's video is going to be my tier list for the month of January 2021 and for patch 5.0. I know that we're not quite over the patch yet, and I was thinking about waiting a bit longer until we got to use Kitty Pryde and Iceman, but I never released a tier list video in December since we had a 2-month-long patch, or we have a 2-month-long patch. So I think we've waited long enough, and I think based on what we know about the kits so far and the characters and where they're going to be used, I think I'll be able to place the final two. But this will be subject to change down the line, and of course next patch when we round out the astonishing X-Men. But without further ado, let's get this show started. Alright, so I just want to go over some adjustments to this tier list from the previous one, which seems like ages ago now, but that was from patch 4.5 at the end of November. And I want to say that a lot of my decisions on the rankings for this tier list come down to a combination of the overall value of the character and their inclusion with their team. I know there are flashier lists out there that, have one rank for their standalone value and another with their team, or depending on what game mode, but I just want to make things simple for people out there to understand, especially as more characters get added to the game and some newer players are aware on what characters are worth investing in. Now, if you are new to my tier list, especially, basically anything B and above are solid investments. C or D characters, which we'll get down to, there's some C here, but D is below that. They really function better with their team, and while some of them may be required to unlock legendary characters in some cases, there isn't really a ton of application for them outside of these events or the teams that they're stuck with, and typically they'll come down to basically widening your roster for Blitz and War. So, to start things off here, I have finally decided to lower Cherrie's value from my A+ category to A. Now, if you followed my tier list, the A+ category is just one new one that I basically created that weren't quite S and weren't quite A. So she's been moved down to A here, and while she's definitely a good legendary character, she's slowly sliding off, especially with Minerva being made farmable in the War Store, but she is required for a few campaign lanes still in Doom War, and more generally a good early game legendary to unlock still, and just not as immediately necessary as she once was. Now another one I want to mention is Rocket and Groot. Now they have been moved down to C. Where are they? They're down here. Okay, so Rocket and Groot, the pair of them, and it pains me because both Rocket and Groot were really great. There was a time where this duo was literally the best, alongside Star-Lord, Minerva, and Thanos, known as the dreaded BKT or Best Kree team, but they've really fallen off the wagon, and frankly with Asgardians and other strong cosmic characters, I'm not really sure I can recommend them as much to be built, which is why I needed to pull them off the B list as standalone good investments. There are still places that they can be used, such as I think one section of Doom War and the Nexus 8 Karnak node, but there are better characters that you can use for those levels. Sif is also being moved from C to B. Sif is over here. I kind of forgot that I left her down with Heimdall in C, but really she's still probably a better standalone investment, and being a skill character, definitely better to gear up over Heimdall. Sorry. The only issue is she's not usable in the Mystic campaign, but otherwise she still stands above poor Heimdall, who I think is probably the weakest link of the Asgardian team. Now we have Mercenary Soldier. I decided to bump him up from literally the bottom, and he's being bumped up to D tier. Now, I think, this might not even matter that much, but I do want to give a nod to his skilletary changes, and while it's a pain in the ass, because the T4s, at least the passive, does benefit quite a bit if you get this at the bare minimum, but yeah, if you want to get all of them, I don't know if it's a really amazing investment, but at least the passive. And while we're on the topic, I haven't moved Punisher from C, so he stays where he is at C tier, because I just really don't feel his rework made a huge difference to his ranking. And now next coming on the board is Captain America. So I did actually rank him up from C to B, much to my own surprise. I'm giving Cap a bit of a slight nod. This has to do with the Wave 1 Avenger rework. I know that's a bit outdated, but I think he is probably the better of all the reworked members next to the Thor changes, which allows the charges on Thor to be used with Wave 1 as well, but Thor's already in B. Also, there have been some people who have been using Cap in Dark Dimension 4 with a Cap Black Widow or Cap Thor combo that's been quite interesting, so kind of want to give another nod to that and acknowledge that here as well. And so this one here might be a premature bump. I did bump Beast to the B category for a few reasons. I believe he'll be farmable very soon, and really he is a better character even on the offensive X-Men Phoenix team than say Wolverine, so he is usable there. We also know he'll be a core member of the new Astonishing X-Men team, as well, so he's going to have some more use than he currently does. I hope that he'll have a player-friendly farm spot, but since he's by no means an OP character, perhaps one of the stores, you know, Blitz or Raid or something like that would be nice for him. I really want to give Storm a similar nod who's stuck in C, but unfortunately I think she's going to be sitting in the dust, and that's a bit sad because I thought that maybe she might get a similar treatment or rework treatment to Beast with a second team, or even with the Astonishing X-Men, but it looks like that didn't happen, which is weird because Storm and Beast have a lot of synergy with the charges for Storm, so I don't know why they just kind of left her like she is. Anyways, that's something to talk about later on. Sinister is also getting a nod, so he's getting a bump from A to A+. Sinister was always a solid character, but he's getting this bump for his extra usage in Dark Dimension 4, where a lot of people have said, and I hope this is the case, because I plan to G15 him, that there is a ton of usage for him there with a variety of characters that he can clone, and in general, really his kit is so future-proofed with the ability to clone newer characters that I don't think he's ever not going to be useful. So I do want to put him up here a bit further, and think he really is worth that separation between the A and the A+ categories. And while we're talking about bumps, you might also see here that Doc Ock also got the A+ treatment. Since his second round is coming pretty soon, I've also, you know, had a lot of use out of him since I got him on the first patch, which I'm grateful for. He's not only a war character, although him and his team really excel there. They're amazing, and they're amazing in war, even being able to take down Black Order, but he's a solid arena character as well as an extra character to block out offense down. He's usable in some raids and Dark Dimension as well if you want to take him in there. On top of this, he's a solid character for real-time arena, for what it's worth, you know, for a lot of the same reason. Even though this isn't about RTA, he is just overall a really fun character to play with, and hopefully a lot of you will get to try him out on the second pass of the event, which I believe starts Monday. And rounding out some of the changes, Thanos actually has been bumped up from the A+ to the S category. And this is taking into account both his regular form and his empowered form. He just truly is a beast, with Black Order being so strong, and I believe that they're going to continue to be strong for some time to come, and even by himself he's very good. It's unfortunate for newer players. It is a harder farm than when he was first released. It was quite easy to get shards for him back then, but at least he is inside of the milestone orbs, whereas some of the newer characters are not. Either way, Thanos is probably the only character on my must-have red star upgrade list that I really recommend getting a full 7 red on him, because he deserves it. He is such a versatile character in this game and really shook up the meta at a time when it really needed it. Just unfortunate that now the game is really full of Black Order a million times over in Arena. And this is where we get into the characters from this patch, which some of you might have already seen, but I am going to go over them one by one. So we have the XFactor Duo of Longshot and Shatterstar, and I said that properly this time. So they're being rated together here, and they're in the A category. I think while only being 2 characters, they have a really awesome kit. Their team potential is quite huge when the other characters for this team come out. I can't wait for that. The on-crit passives are really quite something, so I can't even imagine what's going to happen with the full team coming together. So for this reason, they do get an A tier rating for me, which of course means they're worth keeping an eye on and definitely worth gearing, especially when the rest of them come out. Now moving on, we do have Red Guardian, who's currently ongoing right now as we speak. Red Guardian also gets an A tier from me. Now the reason why he isn't higher is because of its lack of usability more broadly in the game in terms of campaigns and PvE areas, because he doesn't have a team tag, so he's stuck to his base tags, which are Hero, Global, Skill, Military, you know. So really for newer or mid-game players, he's only going to fit into campaigns which can use Hero and Global characters, which are kind of limited at this point. That being said, his kit is amazing. He is a combination of Drax and Captain America, and then some really, which puts him very high in my books, and he is worth gearing up. I see him as a solid drag and drop tank to use in other teams that might be missing a character. That being said, the Skilletary team as a whole is very large, very T4 heavy, and the investment to get them online properly, at least for the reward characters anyways. But as a standalone rating, you know, I do really like Red Guardian. Now moving on to Elena. Now Elena, for me personally, gets a B tier rating. She's down here. She isn't anywhere near as good as Red Guardian in my opinion, and I think her standalone value, while not bad, is definitely better with her team. She does have a good solid kit though, and offensively it is quite nice, and really her and Red Guardian are what make the Skilletary team. But still not as good as her tanking compatriot above. Still worth getting the shards though if you can in the blitzes and gearing up at some point when you have time for it, and she is skill, which doesn't have a ton of crazy good characters, so it might be easier to get her online than other characters who are, you know, bio or mutant, for example. And now we get into the mutant characters. So as you probably saw, Iceman is getting a tentative A tier ranking for me, and this is without any first-hand experience using him. I think his kit is quite good, and especially the passive that not only feeds him barrier every time someone gets slowed, but also the constant damage when someone is slowed. And there is the minus 30% damage in raids when enemies have slow, and the great part of this is that it's not specific to Astonishing X-Man, so there is some standalone value here as long as you have a way to keep him alive basically, and pair him up possibly with some other characters who can slow, maybe Emma Frost and some other healers. The one thing I am concerned about though is how low Iceman's focus is, with only the basic currently benefiting from that bonus focus. I am concerned about his ability to land slows on his ultimate and the stun on his specials, so we'll have to see. We'll also have to see if there's if Bishop or any of the other Astonishing X-Men characters have some way to boost up Iceman's focus, because his focus is not incredibly high. Now, for Kitty Pryde, this leads us to the final character, and you probably saw it next to Elena. So this is the last character that I want to talk about from this patch, who for the moment is going to get a similar rating to Elena. And while I think her kit is good, I think the proof is going to be in the pudding. And while she does have a pretty good kit, she is another one of these protectors that do so by applying debuffs, kind of like Yo-Yo and Invisible Woman to some degree. Her special is really nice, that she gives 2 turns of offense down at even level 6, so you don't actually require T4s there for that, so that's pretty cool. And she can flip taunt on other tanks, which is also really great. I see Kitty as being a niche offensive character, potentially in war with the 2-turn disruptive tech characters. This might be a subtle nod against Dr. Doom or Ultron, and more broadly obviously meant to be with the full team to see that potential in raids, but I just don't see her standalone value as heavily as I do with Iceman, and for that reason she gets the B tier at this moment in time, but the subject to next patch, probably when we might see some changes to this ranking. And really that's everything related to my tier list. Now this was possibly a little bit longer than usual, you know, usually it is, because we had more characters to talk about, and a 2-month-long patch that really dragged this out a little bit than most updates to the game do, with about usually 3 to 4 characters per update. Some of these might change next month when we get the Legendary Jubilee, and my thoughts on the Astonishing X-Men might change as well, although I've gone on record a number of times about how I feel about the team, so I won't do it again now, but let's wait and find out you know, what's coming down the pipeline, especially with the rumors of Bishop being the final member for this team. So that's the end of my video, and I want to thank everyone for watching, and of course, until next time, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Boylon signing out.